Hello, I'm Mr. Myers. I'm your superintendent, and I'm going to read a book to you that was one of my favorites when I was a little boy. It's called Mike Mulligan and the Steam Shovel. Mike Mulligan had a steam shovel, a beautiful red steam shovel, and he named her Mary Ann. Mike was very proud of Mary Ann, and he always said that she could dig as much in one day as 100 people could dig in a year. But he never really knew if that was true. But it was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann had begun digging together for many years, and he took very good care of her, so that she never grew old. It was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann, and others, of course, that dug the canals that let the big boats through. It was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann who cut some of the mountains down so they could build a railroad. It was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann who lowered the hills and straightened the curves so they could have highways for the automobiles. It was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann and some others who smoothed the grounds and filled the holes to make airports and landing fields for airplanes. It was Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann and some others who dug deep holes for the cellars of tall skyscrapers in the big cities. And when people used to stop and watch them, Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann would build a little or dig a little faster and a little better. The more people that stopped, the faster and better they dug. Some days they would keep as many as 37 trucks busy filling them with dirt. Then came along the gasoline-powered shovels and the electric shovels and the diesel motor shovels, and they began taking all the jobs away from the steam shovels. Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann were very sad. A little sign there says, "No steam shovels wanted." All the other steam shovels were being sold for junk and left out in the gravel pits to rust and fall apart. Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann, he couldn't do that to Mary Ann. He loved Mary Ann. He had taken such good care of her. And he always felt that she could still dig as much in one day as 100 people could dig in a week. But he really wasn't sure if it was true. Everywhere they went, the new gas shovels and the new electric shovels and the new diesel shovels took all the jobs. Nobody wanted Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann anymore. And then one day, he read an article in the newspaper that they said that there was a town called Popperville, and they were wanting to build a new town hall. Oh, we can go dig the cellar of that town hall. And so off they went and started down the road. They left the canals and the railroads and the highways and the airports and the big cities, and where nobody really wanted them anymore, and instead they went out into the country and they crawled along the road. And finally they came to the little town of Popperville. When they got there, they were happy to find the selectman who was deciding who was going to build the cellar for the new town hall. Mike Mulligan spoke to Harry B. Swap, one of the selectmen. "I heard," he said, "that you were going to build a new town hall. Mary Ann and I can build that town hall in just one day." "Just one day?" Harry B. Swap said. "It'll take 100 men at least a week to build that cellar." "Sure," said Mike, "but Mary Ann and I can dig as much in one day as 100 men could dig in a week," although he hadn't been quite sure if that was true. But then he added, "And if I can't do it, you don't have to pay me." Harry B. Swap thought this could be an easy way for me to get the cellar dug for nothing. And he smiled in kind of a mean way. And he gave the job of digging the cellar of the new town hall to Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann. The next day, they started early in the morning just as the sun was coming up, and soon a little boy came along. "Do you think you'll finish before sundown?" he asked Mike Mulligan. "Sure," he said to little Mike. If you stay and watch us, we always work a little faster and a little better when someone is watching us." So the little boy watched. Then Mrs. McGillicuddy and Harry B. Swap, the town constable, they came over to see what was happening. And Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann began to dig a little faster and a little better. This gave the boy an idea. He ran off and told the postman with the morning mail, "Tell the boy on the bicycle, and the milkman on his cart with the horse, and tell the doctor on his way home, and tell the farmer and his family." And they all started coming by for the day, and they all stopped to watch Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann. And when they watched, they dug a little faster and a little better. And they finished the first corner neat and square, and the sun was beginning to get higher in the sky. Clang, 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 the fire department arrived. They saw the smoke from the steam engine, and they thought there was a fire. And the little boy said, "Why don't you stay and watch?" So the firemen and of Popperville stayed and watched Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann. And when the children heard the fire engine at the school across the street, they couldn't focus on their lessons, so the teacher let them have an extra long recess so that the whole school can come out and watch Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann build a little faster and a little better. They finished the second corner neat and square, but the sun was getting up in the sky. Now the girl who answers the phones and the next towns of Bangerville and Popperville and Kipperville and Copperville told them what was happening in Popperville, and all these people came to watch Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann as they watched them dig with the steam shovel a cellar in just one day. The more people that came, the faster Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann dug, but they would have to hurry. They were only halfway through, and the sun was starting to go down in the sky. They finished the third corner neat and square. Never had Mary Ann and Mike Mulligan had so many people watching them, and never had they dug so fast and so well, and never had the sun seemed to go down so fast. Oh, what was going to happen? "Hurry, Mike Mulligan, hurry," shouted the little boy. "There's not much time left." Dirt was flying everywhere. Smoke and steam were thick, and people could hardly see anything, but they could hear the noises. Bang, clang. Faster and faster. And then suddenly, it got quiet. Slowly, the dirt settled down. The smoke and the steam cleared away, and there was a cellar, all finished. 4 corners neat and square, 4 walls straight, and Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann at the bottom, and the sun was just going down behind the hill. "Hooray!" shouted all the people. "Hooray for Mike Mulligan and his steam shovel Mary Ann. They have dug a cellar in just one day." Suddenly the little boy said, "Hey, how are you going to get out of there?" "Oh, that's right," said Mrs. McGillicuddy to Mr. Harry B. Swap. "How's he going to get that steam shovel out of there?" Harry B. Swap didn't answer, but he smiled in kind of a mean way. And then everybody said, "Hey, Mike Mulligan, how are you going to get your steam shovel out of there?" Mike Mulligan looked around the 4 square walls and the corners, and he says, "We dug so fast and we dug so well, I've forgotten to dig out a way out. I've never had this problem before." And he didn't know what to do. Nothing like this had ever happened in Popperville. People began talking all at once, and everybody had an idea, and everybody thought their idea was the best idea. And they talked and they talked, and they argued and they argued, and they fought until they were all wore out. And still, no one knew how to get Mike Mulligan and Mary out of the cellar. Then Harry B. Swap said, "Well, the job isn't finished if Mary Ann isn't out of the cellar, so Mike Mulligan won't get paid." And he smiled in kind of a mean way. Now the little boy who had kept quiet had another good idea, and he said, "Why couldn't we just leave Mary Ann in the cellar and build the town hall all around? Then her steam furnace could be the new furnace of the new town hall." and Mike Mulligan could be its janitor. You wouldn't have to buy a new furnace, and you could pay Mike Mulligan for digging the cellar in just one day. Well, why not? Said Harry B. Swap, and he smiled in not so of a mean way this time. Well, why not? Said Mrs. McGillicuddy. Well, why not? Said the town's constable. Why not? Said all the people. So they climbed down the ladder and asked Mr. Mulligan and Mary Ann, what do you think? And he said, why not? Said Mike Mulligan. And so it was decided, and everybody was happy. And they built the town hall right over Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann, and it finished just before winter. Now every day the little boy goes by to see Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann, and Mrs. McGillicuddy takes him hot apple pies. As for Harry B. Swap, he spends most of his time in the cellar of the new town hall, listening to stories of Mike Mulligan and all he has done over the years. And now he isn't smiling in a way that is mean at all. So if you go to Popperville, be sure to go down to the cellar to see the new town hall. There you'll find Mike Mulligan and Mary Ann. Mike in his rocking chair and Mary Ann beside him, warming up all the meetings in the new town hall. The end. Thank you very much for listening to my story. Have a good day.